Hey, welcome back to Gold Scratch. So we got some issues with David Bougie's 427 to talk to you about. We've got it more stripped down. We've got lots of documentation done already. We're going to show you a whole bunch of stuff. How do you like that for a piston? These are Molly pistons. We're going to give you lots of details about that. We're going to degree the cam and a bunch of other things on this video. Comment, I don't usually reply to comments, but somebody mentioned, you know, the name of the video was clickbait because we didn't strip it down. Now, you can strip an engine down in a 20-minute or 30-minute video if you want, but you're not going to learn very much. This is a methodical approach to disassemble this engine methodically, measure everything along the way so that we know what we have. So when we put it back together, if we need to, we can correct that. And we do have some issues, which we're going to show you. So one of them is we've got a little tight spot in the crankshaft, which we'll show you. So we're going to check to the cam degree. One of the things about BluePrint, they give you the spec. The cam is supposed to be 577 lift. I've checked that. It is. That's not a problem. It's a roller cam. 240 degrees duration on the intake, 248 on the exhaust. They don't tell you, it's 112 load separation angle, I believe, but they don't tell you where the center line is. So I had to check that before we take it apart. And so we're going to show you that quickly, and then we're going to get into the piston design. Why did we get away with only 20 foot-pounds of torque to turn on these pistons? Why do they not come out of the bore? There's a pretty good reason right there. So we're going to get into the details. Let's degree the cam quickly for you so that I know we've showed that before. It doesn't take very long, so now it's going to come around. So all we have to do to degree the cam is let's back off and find where the maximum lift of the cam is, and I've got that at, I've zeroed that already, so there's 0. So then we back off 50 thousandths or more than 50 thousandths, come at it, measure at 50 thousandths. So that is 52 degrees. Okay, then we go pass, 0 again, check it again at 50 thousandths. And that is 158 degrees. There we go, that's 22 less than 180. 158. 8 and 2 is 10, 5 and 10 is 11, 210 divided by 2, 105 degree center line. So let's talk about that for a minute, because the load separation angle is 112. So let's say this 105, 106, it's like 6 degrees of advance ground into this camshaft. And so I mentioned we'll talk about that when we get to degree the cam. That's a pretty big cam for a street cam. And how do they make it streetable enough to have, we measured 15 or 16 inches of vacuum by the load separation angle. So the wider your load separation angle is, the less overlap you have. And all the bad stuff that happens to your vacuum and low end performance is due to a close load separation angle. The closer it is together, the more time your intake and exhaust valves are opened at the same time, and the more time you're going to get reversion. So by using 112 degree center line, they fix that. Now, for maximum power, I speculate if this load separation angle was more like 108 degrees, you would probably make more power, but it wouldn't have 12 inches or 16 inches of vacuum. That's the point about that. So we do have an issue with a tight spot in the crankshaft, which I'm going to show you. But let's look at the pistons for one thing. Bellick wants to come in and have a closer look. These are a beautiful piece. They're a forged piston. And somebody commented on a previous video, they're a Molly piston, and he was right. There's Mol or Molly, that's the number of it. And the ring package is 1/16, 1/16, and the bottom oil ring is less than an eighth anyway. I guess you call it an eighth. And one of the things as well, I think the rod is is 6.2 or so. I have to come back to you on that and actually measure it. But with a long rod and a long stroke, what happens is the pinhole gets a lot higher into the piston. And so what happens then is when you put your oil ring on, the oil ring's not supported by the piston anymore. So there's actually an extra little ring that goes in there to support the bottom ringland of the oil ring. So, but 1/16 ring package, and we're not going to mess with this because we had 7% leak down. That's a really good number, and that's we showed all that in the previous video. Very consistent. Average 7 is 6 to 8% leak down. So the next thing is, someone commented, they look like a disc piston. Well, they are a disc piston because you have a lot of cubic inches. You have a big engine. To manage your compression ratio, you cannot use a flat top piston. If this was a flat top piston, this compression ratio would probably be 12 or 13 to 1. So because there's an interest in that, I actually created, going to do a little cleanup here. I actually created a little spreadsheet. We'll put a screenshot of this in here, but we show engine size, 350, 383, 406, 427, 454. So I used Excel to do all the work for me. If I want to aim at 10 to 1 compression, so the swept volume of a 350 is only 43.75 cubic inch of displacement per cylinder, whereas a 427 is 56.75. I've got all the other engines in between here. Oh, that's a 454 actually. So what happens is, in order to manage your compression ratio, is the volume of the cylinder when the piston's at the top divided by the volume of the cylinder, or the other way, at the bottom divided by the volume of the cylinder when the piston's at the top. So if you have a bigger volume, swept volume, you need a bigger volume in your combustion chamber. So the total combustion chamber volume of 350 to have 10 to 1 compression is only 4.86. The combustion chamber volume for a 427 has to be 5.93. So for that reason, you cannot use a flat top piston. You need volume in your cylinder. There's the compression calculation, and I'll put a screenshot of this as well. That's David's engine, 4.25 bore, 4-inch stroke, 64 cc combustion chamber. Now, if the heads were 72 or 74 cc's, then you could go back to a flat top piston probably, but they're not. So the deck height, I've already checked the deck height, it's 5 thousandths, and the head gasket thickness is 40 thousandths. So if you want to solve for that and get 10 to 1 compression, that gives you the volume of the cylinder, piston, excuse me, is 23 cc's. So this volume here, instead of being a flat top piston, is 23 cc. Now on a flat top piston, just with the valve reliefs, it's usually 5 or 7 cc's or so. But that's there on purpose. You still have, that's your quench area, you still have your quench area in the piston, but that 23 cc's is essential to manage compression. And here's the other thing. These are beautiful pieces, by the way. And just to give you an example, this is Alex's idea. There's a 350 piston. It's out of a stock 350 late model engine that I took apart. I just got it hanging around here. It's in good shape, but I don't have use for it. There's a stock 350 piston, and there's a 427 piston. So one of the other things is I weighed, trust me on this, I weighed both of them on my little scale. The total weight of this piston is 1,300 grams, and this one is, with the rod, of course, around 1,480 grams, something like that. So obviously a lot lighter, and probably one of the things that contributes to their ability to make this an internally balanced engine, because your bob weight would be less, right? So the other thing is, I mentioned in a previous video, when I had the engine upside down. I still have one piston in, so I can show you that the piston doesn't come out of the bore. Well, the bore is probably, the casting, probably something to do with that, but there's the other reason. Look how nice and short that skirt is. And if it was like that 350 piston, it would definitely be coming out of the bore. One of the other things that I mentioned when I was in the previous video, only 20 foot-pounds of torque to turn with all 8 pistons in the cylinders, where typically it's around 30 foot-pounds. And that's probably one of the reasons, is that you have like a nice short skirt, so there's less area of the piston to cause friction on torque to turn. 1/16 ring package, so the standard is 5/32 or 5/64. So 1/16 rings. I was kind of thinking they might even be thinner than that, but that's what they are, and that's a nice piece. It's a Molly piston, as somebody mentioned, and these are called H-beam rods. So because if you look at a section of it, it looks like an H if you cut a section out of it, as opposed to these rods, which are I-beam rods. So we're showing you this kind of detail. You know, if you're a professional engine builder, you already know all this. But comments from a lot of my viewers are, you know, I'm just learning and need information. So we're trying to give you as much information as we can along the way. So clean up.
The rod bolts.
Huh?
The bolts.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks, Alex. So they also do something unique. In order to clear, I've showed the rods clearing the crankshaft, or clearing the block in the previous video, but they actually grind the rod bolt with the rod in this area. And so when I took it apart, I actually got a color code which bolt come out of which hole, because that flat's not going to end up in the right place when I torque it. And speaking of torque, so I'm going to cover something else off here. And we're just kind of making this up as we go along, but just to show it. I talked about this gauge before, and I got to make an additional comment. So this is an ARP bolt stretch gauge, and I actually made a video, and the point of the video was you don't really need one. If you're using ARP bolts or not, if you have a good torque wrench, it's accurate, and you torque it, you will have satisfactory torque. Well, when I put the short block from Mike's engine back together, I actually use this tool for every rod bolt, 16 rod bolts. And what I found was the spec was 40 foot-pounds or 4.5 thousandths of stretch. And at 40 foot-pounds, I barely got to the 4 to 4 thousandths, 4 to 4.5 thousandths. I barely got to the 4 thousandths. So I used it for every single one. I wanted to get closer to that 4.5 thousandths. It took 45 to 47 foot-pounds. I actually made a chart, maybe I'll show that someday, of doing that. So you don't have to have one of these, but I'm using one, and it doesn't take that much longer once you get going. You know, you have to put the ARP bolt, you got to back your ARP lubricant on, you got to back it off, measure it, stretch it, and check it, stretch it again. But it didn't really take that long. It's worthwhile. I would like to get the maximum torque, the maximum stretch that I can, or closer to that. So for that reason, I'm going to use it. It doesn't mean you have to use one. I built lots of engines without it, torqued it according to the torque specs, and they're working just fine. So, but it's just, you know, we're always trying to be as perfect as we can, and that's one of the methods that we're going to use. So while we're still filming, I can take this setup off here now. I actually did take, oh yeah, I got to fix something else. I mentioned, I think I called these wishbones, and somebody corrected me, they're called dog bones. So this one is out because I wanted to put my solid lifter, use my solid lifter for checking the cam, and that's my solid lifter. So let me get that guy out of there, if I can get him out of there. Come on. I gotta get a pair of pliers. Sorry about that, guys. We're trying to get work done and cover this with video as well. So I had to take this all off. That's my solid lifter. I use that because it is more accurate when you're degreeing a cam. You could have some variation if you have a hydraulic lifter. So these are dog bones, not wishbones. Got that wrong. Some of my terminology. Let me cover another thing off. Someone else mentioned I called Gen 1 and Gen 2. So I probably got to tidy that up a little bit. The way I think about a Gen 1 is 1955 or 56. The way they came originally, two-piece rear main seal, internally balanced engine with a flat tappet camshaft. In 1987, 86, 87, they went to roller camshafts. GM went to roller camshafts and one-piece rear main seal. So my reference was the 56 engine right up to 1986 was Gen 1. And then this engine is more like what I called Gen 2. Technically, I was wrong. Sorry about that. But the second generation, as I think about it, with a one-piece rear main seal, and they were externally balanced when they come out. This one's not, but the 350s, I built lots of them, they were externally balanced. So on the rear only, the front is neutral, and that's because of the one-piece rear main seal. So hopefully I correct, and I apologize for the terminology. You know, having a YouTube channel is like having access to thousands of experts, consultants who are willing to look at your work and give you and comment on you, correct you, and I appreciate that. That's not a problem for me. I'm always looking to learn, and I'm learning from you guys too. And somebody watching this video, you know, read the comments. You'll probably learn as much from the comments as you will from watching the video. So let me turn it upside down now. I can show you something else on the other side. So let me get it over here. So one of the things, there's still one piston in it because I never took this one out. And when I degreed the cam, I never took it apart first. I left it in. And what we are planning to do now is take the cam out and have Bill put it on his cam doctor and make a video of that showing you the cam specs. The cam specs, the lift and duration and load separation angle is in the public information for it, but in the package of information that I received with this engine, the center line's not even in there because you shouldn't need it because you're not going to be degreeing the cam. So I've got 105 or 106 degrees center line. So I had to leave one piston in. I've already done the clearances of the connecting rods. So the connecting rod clearances are between 1.5 thousandths and 2 thousandths. I'll put up our data sheet in this video. A little tighter than I usually go. I usually go 2.5, but that might be one of the reasons why we have 90 pounds of oil pressure cold, because we have a high volume pump and relatively speaking fairly tight clearances. Now, is that okay? Sure it is. The GM spec for connecting rods is the minimum is 0.7 of a thou, not even a thousandth. So 1.5 was the smallest dimension. I think 1.5 to 2 thou. I'll show that in the video. I haven't taken it apart at all anymore, but I do have one issue. If Alec wants to come in here, I don't know if I can demonstrate it, but there is a tight spot when I turn it. Right there. Right there. And it's not where the piston's reversing. The piston's already a couple inches down the hole. You can see where the rod is. Now, when I take this piston out, which I will, of course, I will double check that. But there is a little resistance there, and I'll get back to you on that. If that goes away with the piston out, it's possible. But one of the things, a couple things to mention. I haven't mentioned thrust clearance yet, which I'll do. One of the things is the crank straight. It probably is. We will check that on another time. Take all the main bearing caps off except the end main bearing caps. Put a dial indicator on the center journal and determine whether there's any run out on the crankshaft at all. I don't think it's a problem, but we're trying to learn as much as we can on this. Someone else mentioned lots of goop. There is silicone everywhere on this engine. Even, where did I put the head gasket? So, yeah, even the head gasket was, look, it ripped the head gasket apart, taking it off, because the head gasket even had some, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. So that's kind of strange. I don't understand why they would do that. Someone else also mentioned there's rust in the engine already with that shorter running. It doesn't take long. Actually, when I put water in this engine for the first startup, I actually put some antifreeze in it, some coolant in it, because it has a rust preventative in it. Now, not the 50-50 strength, probably 20% strength or something, but it doesn't take long, and it doesn't matter either. Once it gets running, it'll be fine, and when it gets in a car, unless it's in a race car, it's going to have antifreeze in it, which has got a rust preventive. So there you can see the one-piece rear main seal from the back. A little bit an issue here, more RTV, and it's kind of distorted as well. Haven't taken the oil pump apart yet. I will do that. We will look at the spring and determine whether, you know, there's a better spring we can use to limit the total pressure. So that's where we're at for now. We'll keep working. I got to make videos when I got some Alec available to help me make videos, so that's the moment in time. That's where we are today. In the next one, we'll have the crankshaft out. I'll have all the main bearing clearances measured for you. We'll get this piston out. We'll see whether the tightness goes away and keep going. As I say, if we get time with Bill, we'll put the cam on the cam doctor, and we're going to have Bill also. Haven't talked about the heads much. A lot of guys commented. I bet you could improve on those heads. We'll have Bill flow the heads and see what results we get, and then determine whether it's worth having him port the heads or not, whether that's worth it. Depending how much, you know, as you probably know, the rule of thumb with heads is whatever your CFM flow past the intake valve number is, let's say it's 250 CFM. If you double that, it can support 500 horsepower. So we're going to need, for this engine, 275 CFM or something like that when we flow the heads. But let's see what happens when we have Bill do that. One of the things that David's commented he's after is low lift flow. That total number I just gave you is important, but all the numbers are important. Low lift flow, medium lift flow, which determine your torque curve. And so we're going to see whether we can make some improvements on that. So that's all we got for now, I guess. Thank you for watching and subscribing. This series of videos is going well. And as I mentioned, we will have the third video of Trent Rossum's 383 up fairly soon. We just got some more fixing to do on it because we put it together over a period of time, and so it needs some more editing. But we're coming with that, and then weekend after this, we got Pat from Cutter's Performance coming with his 383 for the fourth one. I'll put a spreadsheet up in that video showing, you know, where we're at with performance. Interesting, all those 383s so far, pretty close in terms of numbers. A comparison against North American or USA Dart heads versus Speedmaster heads, and a bunch of other things that we did. One of the other things is Rick Atchison's engine did really well with a flat tappet camshaft, not a roller camshaft, and it also put us a pretty good number. So we'll show you all that in the next video. Thank you for watching Gold Scratch.